legends. G'day, superstars. Peps and Jdog are back.
Stop. They've done this, Peps. You need to stop pressing buttons. Everyone, I'm taking over the show tonight because Peps has just royally wrecked it for everyone. We've now got 2 videos, 2 audio streams, 2 audio tracks. Peps, I was telling you that old people put on the best events ever because you get the best food post-event. And we're going straight into the ladder. Peps, if you touch another button tonight, I swear to God, I'm going to come down that camera and I'm going to strangle you.
All right. No probs. Not rep to be here, mate. I'm not touching anything.
Don't touch anything. I want hands on camera all night.
It's just like at school, hands on the top of the desks, not underneath the desks, especially at a boys' school. All right. Hey, interesting round of footy. I said last week that I reckon it'd be an absolute ball fest, and it has just thrown a spanner amongst the pigeons, as they would say in France, the pigeons. But everybody who's listening to this, thank you very much for joining us again. For joining us live on the YouTube or the Facebook, make sure you haven't subscribed, rung the bell, and given us a like on our YouTube channel. Please sure that you do. But more importantly as well, too, hey, if you want to send us a bit of love, on the Facebook channel, send us a bit of stars, and you can support us, and it just helps us cover the costs. Yes, we do pay for this out of our own back pocket. It's only a couple of bucks, but hey, it's less than a cappuccino, but you're putting smiles on everybody's faces. So that's what we want to do. But I am absolutely pumped over the weekend. So many highlights. I want to go through the ladder really, really quickly because it's one of those things that we have to chat about because it is massive, as we would say in the classics, massive. All right, here we go, Jdog. Sydney on top, but they had a loss on the weekend. Finally, they fell apart. Is this the loss that they had to have? Is this mean that they've climbed the ladder for season 2024? Are they on their way down? I'm interested to get your thoughts on this. Carlton keep going from strength to strength. Fremantle. This is a team that were going to throw their coach out 4 or 5 rounds into the season. They have stuck fat and they are playing some cracker football. All right. Apparently the only team that has bad decisions paid against them, which is the Essendon Football Club. Yes, they lost again on the weekend. Not having a good run of things lately, the Essendon Boomers. Geelong, cracking win. Collingwood lost. I think the shine has fallen off them. Interesting, I will say. Port Adelaide, Jamie, your mob are back. Ken, in Ken we trust. We had the Trump debate. Now we have the Ken debate. Who would you rather have running Port Adelaide, Ken or Biden? It's an interesting, or Elbow. I would think you'd still go with Ken. You've even got Brisbane Lions who, my goodness, beat my mob on the weekend. They played some pretty good footy, but Brisbane Lions, they are humming nicely at the moment. But it still gets better. Can you believe there are still 5 teams with less than 1 game outside of the 8? Western Bulldogs, GWS, Gold Coast, great win. Melbourne, great loss. Hawthorn beat West Coast in West Coast. Can't ask for much more than that. Adelaide Crows, St Kilda, they are still shit Kilda. Wet Toast Eagles, how they beat Melbourne, I got no idea. Richmond, and not the Melbourne for Australia, the Franco Cozzo All-Stars sitting with 4 points and 64%. That is the ladder. Jamie, what sticks out to you? What catches your thoughts? What do you like? Who are you concerned about? And who is going to make finals? Because I can tell you now, whatever we say this week will definitely be changing in 7 days' time.
Well, last week we said we're comfortable down to 11. I think over the weekend now, we cannot exclude out down to 13 out now.
Yes. Yep. With all the results that were going on, yes, plenty of things throwing everything out. Big shout out to Lozcow Productions. They joined us on YouTube. Thanks for joining us online. Great to see you back again. Great supporters of the show. It was a week of footy that teams that you thought were going to win couldn't. Teams that you thought were going to get smashed didn't. It was all over the place. Like if you think about it, let's just do the quick review from the games on the weekend. Melbourne, I said Melbourne to get absolutely pumped. I didn't do my tips for last week, so I apologise for that. They will be back this week. I thought Melbourne to get pumped easily, and to go down by 5 points was not the result that we wanted, especially with 4 minutes to go. Like you said, Jdog, you turned the TV off thinking that they had that 1-1, and just goes to show that any team can steal victory from the jaws of defeat, especially if a team doesn't score any goals over the last 2 weeks in the final quarter. North Melbourne versus the Western Bulldogs. It was the Bontempelli show. He was just immense as always. But North Melbourne, they have got their mojo back a little bit as well too. They've got a nice midfield. It's going to be interesting what happens with Zerha. Tristan Zeri in the ruck. Love him. Absolutely love him. He is a beast. The result, I don't think anybody saw coming, which was Sydney versus Fremantle. What a putrid start by the Swans. Their starts are a little bit concerning for Longmire's crew. They fought their way back. Logan McDonald kicks the goal to pretty much get them within even Stevens and then just completely fudged it. It was Rory McIlroy style. That's how bad it was. On the last hole, couldn't get it done after the siren. Fremantle get into the top 4 and really starting to put a stamp on this season. Gold Coast, look, I picked them. I knew that they would beat Collingwood. Only reason why, because Gold Coast are playing at home. It's hot. It's sweaty. Collingwood, all the kudos to them. They came back, but Suns at home, they're very, very difficult to beat. But if you're playing them away, you've got this one won. The GWS Giants, they are going backwards faster than literally any team I know. After the start they've had, they are just giant underperformers. That's what they are right now. The Crows swooped in, and Isaac Rankin, slap your McBeefsteak, buddy. You are an absolute gem. Geelong Cats, Essendon. This was actually a pretty good, high-quality game considering the rain that they had at the G. But that third quarter blitz by the Cats was sensational. Gary Rowan, he was Wayne Carey-like. I know that was mentioned a little bit, but he had the stickiest hands for people that were dropping the ball left, right, and centre. Really reliable, and Geelong just showed that people, when you think that they're out, they are still in. Essendon, I'd be starting to worry a little bit. Is this the same old Essendon? You talk about Gold Coast falling over when it gets to winter, getting into June and July. Essendon, as soon as the bye hits, they've pretty much packed their bags for Vegas. Port Adelaide in Can We Trust, get the 2-point win over St Kilda. I thought the Saints would win that based on what you've been serving up over the last couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. But Port Adelaide did what they had to do to keep their chances of making finals still there. Carlton smashed Richmond. That would almost be the win of the weekend, considering the conditions. It's not about the opposition. It's whether you put the foot on the throat. It's how hard you press, and they are pressing harder than most teams right now. And it might have been the last game of the weekend, but it was probably one of the most enjoyable if you were a Hawk supporter. A 10-goal win over there in West Coast. And West Coast have been playing pretty well over there at Optus Stadium, but they just put the foot on the throat. And the Hawks, 5th win in a row, if they make finals, I don't think they're going to do any damage at the top end, but I think that they could cause some issues for maybe the first couple of weeks if they do make finals. That is what I'm thinking of them right now. But lots of things happening, and it was a cracker-dacker week of footy, and it's all just setting it up nicely for the last 8 rounds, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 8 rounds of football. And when you've still got another 5 teams outside of the 8 that can still make it, that is the season that we are looking for. Quotes coming in a lot about the Swans losing. The Swans always a worry. Interesting, Jdog. Thoughts and opinions on the way that you see things, and who do you see dropping out? I still think I did predict GWS to come out last week, and I think we've got that one right. And I still think Port Adelaide still question me a little bit, and I still think Essendon could be a chance as well too. But Essendon have a really good run in the back end of the season, so it could be teams saving their spot rather than losing it, if that makes sense, because of the run that they've got.
From the top 8, I just see Port coming out, and I see probably the Cats as well.
Yep. Cats have a good run going in the back end.
Yeah, at the same time, the Cats staying in. Yeah. It's for me, it's Port are the ones, like, let's be honest, a 2-point win over St Kilda is not what you'd call a great win. If you are being serious, if we're being serious here, like St Kilda are pretty ordinary this year.
Yep.
And that's just me just being, I know you have your feeling about St Kilda, but that's being a supporter would go, yeah, we're not a great team this year. So Port getting those 2 points, scraping across the line, really, like it wasn't like we come back from 30 points down and dominated. We just scraped across the line. Tells me I don't need to know. The game, 2 points. So I think Port are probably the biggest, shakiest ones. But once again, that final spot in the 8, for me, Port, Western Bulldogs, Melbourne, maybe a Hawthorn if they get a run. But really, I think it's down to those 3 teams.
Yep.
If I'm being honest, looking at the ladder, I think that's where my 3 are.
Yep. Yeah, I pretty much agree. I think Geelong, they can be 50-50, but they've got so many games at home. I think in the back end, that's where I still see them making a charge.
Mm.
I think your mob are in trouble. I just think Essendon, and there is a stat that I'm going to throw out a little bit later, and I'm not here to bag on Essendon. I just think that it's going to be a bit of a challenge, I think, for them to continually keep going. Their run isn't too bad, but they just have to keep performing, and they've got a history of falling over at this particular area. And I reckon a team might fall into the 8. That's the way that I'm looking at it at the moment. I'm looking at a team like the Bulldogs. I reckon they could fall into the 8. Yeah, there's not many, though, outside that I'd go, they're a lock-in. So even though we're 8 rounds out, I think the way it's looking is it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Hey, I threw it up there tonight. I've got a couple of things I want to go to. I want to ask you about umpiring as well, too. And the only reason I want to ask about umpiring is because we've heard a lot over the last couple of days about what's happened with the Essendon game. I want your thoughts and opinions. I've got my opinions on just maybe the three decisions that have really stood out and my feedback on them. I'm not here to bash anyone. I'm not here to pick on anyone. I'm just going to say what I saw and how I feel about them. Okay. And then we've had some questions rolling through on the chat tonight. Lots of questions. And tonight is you ask us, we'll answer. So we've had some rippers already asking about who wins the spoon, a Freo legit, are they peaking at the right time, these sort of things. We will go into those as well too. We've got some really, really good stuff that sort of backs up where Freo is sitting at the moment. And injuries are definitely going to be a massive point when it kicks into it as well too. All right. So I think the biggest talking point out of the weekend, first of all, is Patrick Cripps in your eyes having a better year this year than he did the year he won the Brownlow in 2022, Jdog?
It feels like the back end has been a lot bigger. I felt the start of the season he was a bit quieter, but now I think he's really, like, from round 6 onwards has just peaked at the same rate as Carlton doing the same. Carlton, the first couple of weeks, you were like, yeah, they're Carlton. But Carlton have hit their straps from week 6 onwards, and it's just they're looking as good as they are, and Cripps is a big part of that.
So you're almost looking at those statistics for Essendon. For Carlton, if you're looking at, like you said, from round 6 onwards, he's potentially polled in all but 3 games out of that, which is a massive run, which was similar to what he did a couple of years ago. And it's funny when you look at it, that's a similar profile to Nick Dacos, and it's a similar profile to Marcus Bontempelli. They've been racking up 3s and 2s in probably, I'd almost say from round 8 onwards, they've just dominated it. Yet you have a look at someone like Isaac Heaney that started off so well at the start of the year, has really tapered off over the last probably 5 rounds. So he's going to jump out really fast, but it's going to be these last number of weeks, and who plays each other as well too. But one player that's really sort of hit it hard over the last number of weeks, well, there's actually 2 of them, has been Caleb Sarong and Noah Anderson. They have just been playing some really good football, and it's no surprise when you think about what Fremantle has been doing. And Caleb Sarong does pile weights, as we've seen over previous years. But I picked Noah Anderson to win the Brownlow at the start of this year as well too. And when Gold Coast win well, he has a massive hand because he's not just all about the grunt. He has the flash to go with it as well too. So they are in a massive spot with the way things are going there. But Cripps, he is playing some of the best football I've seen him play. It's actually good to see him running around injury-free. The year that he won it, probably shouldn't have won it, got off on a technicality. If he wins it this year, it's going to be strange, Joe. You think that Bontempelli, if I had to put the 2 of them up against the wall and say, who would you take, Cripps or Bontempelli? Who would you take? And I'd ask the audience, who would you take, Cripps or Bontempelli right now?
I'd take Bontempelli a million times.
Yeah, I'd probably as well. But one of them could be ending up a 2-time premiership player. Sorry, 2-time Brownlow medal winner. The other one's going to be maybe is already a Brownlow a premiership player.
I got a question there for you, Peps.
Yeah, buddy.
Can you be a legend of the AFL or an elite player without a Brownlow in your career?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Should I go through a couple?
I know you've probably got a couple there that you can think on top of your head, but are you still revered in the same level as a Brownlow winner?
Yep. So, couple of things. First of all, Tori, the superstar, Daniela Williams, joining us again. She's going through a bit. So, beautiful shout out to you, superstar. Been with us since day dot. So, or definitely giving you a shout out as we do every single week. What was your question again? Sorry, I just got just when I saw
Can you be an elite legend all-star all-timer AFL player?
Yes, you can. Because you can also because you can also be a Brownlow medal winner and people still look down on you. And I can go through a couple right now. Brad Hardy, Shane Woden, Adam Cooney, Ollie Wines.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So just because you win one, it's a midfielder's award. You only have to have really one good season. I could pick out names and Lee Matthews. They reckon the greatest footballer ever. Never won one.
But he won 4 premierships.
Yep, true. Robbie Flower. Never won a Brownlow. Never won a premiership. Probably arguably one of the greatest wingmen to ever play the game. Full stop. Gary Ablett Sr. Never won a Brownlow. Never won a premiership. Gun.
Senior won a premiership?
No. Senior never won a premiership. Lost 4.
Oh, yeah, true.
So you can be an absolute gun player and not win a Brownlow. And it was an interesting sort of conversation that came up last week. And I think Lee Matthews brought this up, is that you have the Coleman medal for the forwards. You have the Brownlow for maybe the midfielders, but there's nothing for the backmen. Maybe there should be a backman award. Carey's come up, Wayne Carey, and not Peter Carey, the umpire, but he did win a couple of flags. So he got that side of things. So there definitely are players that didn't win a flag, did win a Brownlow, that are considered some of the game's greatest. Yep, I definitely agree with that. All right.
Okay. Right. Just quickly one there on the play you said there.
Yep.
Caleb Sarong having a fantastic year. Over the weekend, we saw Fife get put on a tag roll.
Yeah.
Did a wonderful job on Heaney for the 3 quarters. I think that has been a wonderful move that has been made. I think Fife as a tagger is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
He's a tagger who can hit you hard back the other way, but also is smart enough to know where to put himself in for those contested ball positions. Heaney loves that ball, loves the contested ball, loves getting it out. Fife was there every step of the way with him on the weekend.
Yep. Fife is definitely not the player that he was.
No.
But the thing is that just like anything in life, and you know this in work, in family, anything, you need to adapt. And when people are not in the spot where they used to be, you need to try and find something that's better for them. And we know what Fife can't do anymore, but if he can run and stay fit and go with someone, perfect. He's got a big enough body to put the blocks on. He's got the big enough body to go and the tank to go with people. He's just not bash and crash, dominate Fife like he was. So use it a little bit differently. It was like when Richo went from being a full forward to the wing. Totally flipped it, almost won a Brownlow in that year.
Yep.
So you can get smart with it as well too, if you can do the work. But he did a cracking job. Hey, a couple of things that came up. Wayne Carey, no Brownlow. We mentioned that one. Rory Lobb never won a Brownlow either as well too. Mossy, a big doggy supporter. And after Rory Lobb dominated at fullback last year, he could be the All-Australian fullback, Rory Lobb.
I reckon Port will give four first rounders for him.
4 first rounders, no, St Kilda will be. St Kilda will give 4 first rounders for him. 4 first, definitely. Hey, right. Question that came in. Who will win the spoon? I still think North will win the spoon. I think North will win the spoon and still not be the worst team in the league. I think Richmond's the worst team in the league.
Ooh,
at the moment.
A big call.
It's a big call, but
no, not at the moment. You can't say at the moment because the spoon is at the end.
Yeah, at the end. But North, their last probably month has actually been a lot better than Richmond's, and Richmond's season hasn't been all that crash out either. And I don't think North are going to do what they did last year by getting that win. They won the victory, but they never won the war. Could you imagine Wardlow, the Cheese, McKercher, and Reed running around? I've missed one. Colby McKercher. I've missed one. Could you imagine him running around with those 3?
Wow. What's north?
4
Look,
points from
they
those
put up
61%.
they put up a good fight on Friday. Oh,
They
sorry,
did.
Saturday. Saturday.
They haven't got a back line. That's the issue. They need to go out and find a couple of big boys to really go down back. And if they do that, they're going to win more than they lost.
I don't know, Peps.
Mm.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sold.
You don't have to be sold. You don't have to be sold. But you've got to look at, have you seen improvement from the start of the season till now? I would say yes. Most definitely I've seen improvement out of North.
The last 3 weeks for sure since
The last,
the win.
like I said, the last month, where most teams tend to fall away, they've actually got better. So they're starting to get some belief in themselves. And that's what you want leading into your next preseason. You want to, hope is, hold on, pain ends. They've got hope. They've got some hope. I think they've got over the worst of the worst. They'll get a number 1 draft pick in next year, probably another midfielder, and then they'll start to climb again. They've just got to get games into these kids. They can't afford. LDU's even come out and said that, hey, you know what? I don't think I want to go anywhere, which is a really good sign as well, too.
If they can keep that sort of quartet of players that they're guns, I think it's probably about 3 or 4 years away.
Eddie Ford, Paul Curtis, like they've got bigger in their sizes as well too. So their bodies are filling out to be able to play the game. It's really nice. I love what Archer's young boy. He's got some spunk about him as well too. So they've got a nucleus. They just need a couple of those awesome pieces just around to give them that experience. But they don't need crappy ones. They need really good ones to be able to do it as well too. Rightio. So that's who I think is going to lose the wooden spoon. Excuse me. Garage. Right. Next thing. It's near the table. I'm online. Go away. Go and look for it. Sorry, everybody. My son coming in and asking where the soft drink is.
It's in the fridge. What's in the garage for, Peps? It's in the fridge, mate.
Yeah, it's in the fridge. It's in the fridge in the garage. That's where it is.
Oh, the garage fridge.
Right. Sorry about that, everybody. I'll leave that in the show just to show that this show is live. Right. Next question that came up. Is Freo legit? This is a great question by Bev Tone. Are Freo legit? They seem to be peaking at the right time. Jdog, I'll get your thoughts on it. And then I've got some interesting statistical analysis based on their season and their recent performance, how well they're going.
Great question. What was it? Are we talking probably 5 weeks ago? We were Freo. People were asking, where's Freo at? And if we looked at the preseason and what we said the season before and season before that, we're like, what the hell is happening with Freo? They are just a middling club that seems to be going nowhere. They've got players on the list, but they can never seem to put it together. Since 5-6 weeks ago, when they had the big word put on by the coach saying that is not our club, that this is not who we are, they have committed to a build plan. And from that moment, from that press conference, where it's like, this is not our identity, this is not who we are as a football for email player, they have come out and have really shown the AFL. I think they've got it together personally. The midfield now is actually starting to work. They're starting to get the taps. They're starting to bring in all their recruits they got in there. That's all starting to click for them.
Yep.
We're starting to see more forward line connection. So, Giant Misses now start to step up and actually start to get his hands on the ball more. I just think that is, for me, I am comfortable with Freo remaining in a top 4 fight this year.
love it.
I think they're legit. I think they're legit. You think that Alex Pearce and Brandon Cox are not even playing. So they've still got 2 guns from a defending side of things to come in and bolster a defense that's just going great guns at the moment as we speak. Brayshaw, Sarong, like they're all kicking each other. They're just, it's like a mesh network, Peps. It's
but even like Darcy and Jackson, at one stage, people are going like, is that going to work? And it is working.
That's right. No, you're right. Because we were questioning how they're going to have 2 ruckmen on their list when they're both the lead ruckman.
Exactly right. That's working at the moment. If you just, and I just want to talk to you about the current team ratings. Like if you have a look at the overall ranking, so the current ratings of teams work on a defense, they work on an attack. They don't worry about mids, and then they add them up, and then you get an overall season ranking. Okay. The classic thing is that for the entire season, Fremantle were awful for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Their attack was going, their attack was going really, really well. but their defense wasn't that crash hot at all. Now things have completely flipped, and now they've got the number one ranking, and even the current ranking for the entire sets of teams, they've gone up to fifth in current ratings as things sit right now. So you've still got Sydney, Brisbane are up there as well too, and we know about them. Carlton have been ticking along nicely, but what Fremantle are doing is that they're where they were being let down a little bit earlier on with their defense. That's actually their attack is actually got better, and their defense has still been the number 5 rated defense to be the number 1 rated defense. So they're now humming. They're humming nicely. They've got the seventh best forward line, the number 1 ranking defense. They're doing it. Where it was. You got to miss playing nicely down there. You got Salty running around doing as well too. You've got the big boys. They just work. The midfielders kick goals. They are just, you're right, humming nicely. And Longmuir's just going, I knew it was there. I think everybody was a believer. The Monkeys were believers. Justin Bieber was a believer. I wasn't one of them. We weren't one of them. And it just goes to show you can. I think ever since they had that massive win against the Ds, it's just been, how good is this, boys? We can beat anybody on our day, and we're going to go have a hard hour crack, and they're doing it. And it's great.
And well done, Peps. You got through that. You had a bit of a case of the old Kenny calendars there for a little second. That was pretty hard.
What do you mean? Case of the Kenny?
Yeah, I think you got it stuck over. Was it the word 7th or something? Seventh of the defense. That's a pretty hard.
Yeah, I went 7th of the defense. Yes, it was Sunshine Sally 66-1 was a sensational choice.
Yeah, well, that's hard. 7th in defense. That's pretty hard to get that sentence out well.
Yeah, it's not we get there. We've been doing this for a while too, but they're just going really, really nicely. It's interesting to see that the teams that have got better over the last
before the buys.
Yeah, just sort of, if you look at the recency of the recency side of things, the rankings from the recency side of things, and you're gonna laugh when you hear this, is Fremantle, Sydney, Melbourne have got the third best defense. They just can't score.
Yes, you can't kick goals in the last
Western
quarter.
Bulldogs and Hawthorn, best defense. From a offensive side of things, Sydney, Brisbane, Carlton, Western Bulldogs, Geelong.
Yeah, right, okay. Not Collingwood.
No. But when you put them both together, Sydney, Brisbane, Carlton, Western Bulldogs, Freo, there's your top 5.
Yep.
Then Collingwood, then Geelong, then Gold Coast, and then Hawthorn. That's
so 5 of the 8. Sorry, 6 of the 8 are in currently where we are, and they're the best teams at the moment on your ratings.
Yes, exactly right. And the ones that should be in there but they're not is Gold Coast, and the one that's in there that should not even be close is Essendon. They got the 13th. They got the 13th based rate, the 13th ranked offense, the 13th ranked defense.
Well, let's talk about Essendon, because you said that they are a fake top 4.
Yeah, they are a fake top 4, and I'll put it in this perspective. So if you have a look at games against finals teams in 2024, okay, so if you put all the teams up against Richmond, Melbourne, Adelaide, GWS, and Carlton, they've played top 8 teams 8 times this year. Essendon have played a top 8 team only 5 times this season for 0 wins and a draw, and that was against Collingwood at that particular time. So they've played 10 games against teams that are outside of the top 8, which is the most. They've won 9 and they've won 1. Sorry, I lost 1. So they're down. You want to talk about me wearing my puffy jacket and I'm a downhill skier. They are downhill skiers. And the stats don't lie. The stats don't lie. Okay. Carlton, Sydney, funny enough, GWS have the best record against top 8 teams this year. The worst record, Essendon and North Melbourne.
Okay.
So if you have a look at Essendon's back half of the season and have a look at who they're playing, if they're playing more top 8 teams than not top 8 teams, they're going to struggle to make the 8. If they're playing teams outside of the 8, they're a massive chance. So they can win when they have to win against the bottom feeders, but the top ones, they can't stand up against them. It's happened against Geelong again on the weekend, who I thought that they would have beaten quite easily.
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, you're saying they've got a bit of the old Port Adelaide's from previously this year?
No, I
The
don't
last
think
couple of years.
I don't think it's the Port Adelaide. I just don't think. I think you have some teams that perform really well against teams in their own bracket, but to take that next step doesn't always happen. So normally you're a top 8 team, you play well against top eight teams and you beat them. You're a top 8 team, you have a 50-50 split. You win half, you lose half. You're outside, you might beat a couple of teams in the top 8, but you mainly beat the teams around you, and then you're just in the bottom and you don't win at all. North Melbourne, Richmond, that sort of lower end scale. Essendon are in that spot at the moment where they are winning a lot of games. They're just not against that upper echelon quality opposition.
Okay.
Yep.
So is there something that they can do from the rankings that you've seen that they're lacking at the moment? Are they lacking defensively? Are they lacking in the forward 50s?
Yeah, they don't score. They don't score. So they've actually, funny enough, if you look at the points kicked against top 8 teams this year, they're ranked 18th. They do not kick scores against top 8 teams, which says to me that if they play teams with great defenses who can nullify Langford, Wright, Stringer, they struggle to kick a score.
It's interesting, Peps, that you say that, though, because as a footy person, it feels like when Essendon win, they win big.
But they do, because when they're playing against non-top 8 teams, they've got an average of 121%.
Right.
Which means that they're sitting third for points kicked against non-finals teams. So, yes, they win, and they win well because their backlines aren't as good. So it's going to be interesting in a couple of weeks, and I'm being very biased when I say this. They're playing Melbourne. May, Lever. What's going to happen? That is a game Essendon should, I would say, almost pump Melbourne. Will they be able to kick a big enough score? That is the question. Because if Stringer doesn't fire and Langford doesn't fire, I don't think Wright can hold it on his back and kick a 5 or a 6, because that's what's going to have to happen. You want to get 8 out of your top 3.
Or a Draper rolling forward, kicking 2, and Stringer with another couple.
But you need to get at least 8 to 10 out of your key forwards every week. If you've got 3 keys, you want to get at least 8 to 10 out of them. Yeah. If you're not, that's a lot for your midfielders to pick up at the slack. And you can't be Zach Merritt. And we've seen it with other teams as well too, Jdog. Like, if you want to have a look at some of the other teams that are struggling against Hawthorn, they don't score against top 8 teams. Even though they're winning, they don't score against top 8 teams. Funnily enough, one team that does have a great offense against top 8 teams is Gold Coast. So Gold Coast
up there or down here?
So they've played 7. They've won 3, lost 4. I'm tipping those 3 were up in Gold Coast and the 4 were not at Gold Coast. But they've kicked the 5th most points out of everybody against top 8 teams. But they have been scored against the other way. So they can score, but their defense, you can get them as well at the back end.
Yep. Okay, interesting.
Would you like to know who if you could pick the top 4 teams, top 5 teams, who are the top 5 teams who dominate against from a percentage side of things?
Oh, top 5 teams who dominate percentage. Yeah. Sydney?
Yep. 142% against top 8 teams.
Yep. I have a funny feeling that it would be like something obscure, like a Brisbane or someone.
Brisbane are 5th. Yep. So they've fired in the last few weeks as well too, which is good. Carlton 109. So there's a massive jump. We're talking 33 percentage points between Sydney and Carlton. That's how much they've dominated this year. Carlton are 109. Interestingly enough, your favourite love child's Collingwood are 3-1 and had 2 draws. So they play really, really well against top 8 teams, but have got a 5-4 against bottom.
Yeah.
I think it had to do with the start of the season, which is really strange. Like when Collingwood, if they play teams in form, it makes it a challenge. And then GWS, But I think also that has to do with a bit of the start of the season as well too. So they're 4-4 against top 8 teams. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting back end to the season. It's amazing when you just start put the two side of things together. It really does start to stand out who are the ones that are really going to make a difference and who are the ones. Yep. Okay. Yep. So I just thought a bit of perspective on it. Now, another question that's come up is I think you can see a fully committed team in comparison to a team with a few stars. I am Carlton biased. Yeah, I think Carlton at the moment, look, you've got some massive pillars at each end of the ground and running through the midfield. Like you've got all Australian fullback, all Australian full forwards, all Australian midfielders. There's not too many teams that have that. Sydney don't have that. Collingwood don't have that. They've got maybe midfielders and defense, but they don't have forwards as well too. Carlton have it. Their spine is the strongest in the league.
Comfortably.
But it's those players around the outskirts that have just picked up this year. Like Orazio on the weekend. Like he started off pretty average at the start of the season. Has really started to come into his own. He's kicked 4 on the weekend again.
Yeah.
Blake Acres, like they got him for a bag of chips from Fremantle. He's just become better. Chincotta.
Zach Williams.
Zach Williams. Like when he doesn't score, somebody else does as well too.
Lockie Fogarty. Like
McGovern's back to how he played. Sard loves it off the half-back line. It's just
and what's amazing with I could literally Peps compared to you in football, I would be like an under 8s. I'd be worse than under 8s player. I can't imagine how nice it would be to just scoop the ball up from the midfield and looking up and you've got Harry or Charlie to kick it to. And then under them, you've got a Chincotta, you've got a Williams, you might got a Fogarty or an Orazio, just
or
to mop
Durden,
up.
or Owies, or
Like
Jack
it must be a nice feeling to get possession of a ball and then just look up and go, I'm good. I'll kick it anywhere.
Oh, I can grab it in. They'll get it. I could spear pass it. I'm going to bang it in as a pack mark. Any way that they get in, I've got more options than a Swiss Army knife going in forward to them. And then when it goes down the other end, I've got McGovern to stop it. Wiedering.
Kemp, whatever.
Whoever. Like
Sard, off the halfback, whatever.
Yeah. Like who else do you want? Like
Huey, whatever.
Really? Oh,
pretty unreal.
I forgot about Chera. Like they're going beautifully. Yeah. Now injuries are going to be a big thing as per normal. And I reckon the biggest thing, and we saw this happen a little bit through the middle when Wiedering went missing for a few weeks with his calf. They were a little bit. I wouldn't worry about Mackay and Curnow. I'd be more worried about if Wiedering goes down, that's where the Achilles heel is going to be.
Yeah.
Because then no one can stop what he's doing at the moment. Yeah. No one can. He's just been brilliant. I did mention it a little bit earlier on, and I do want to cover this off because I know it's been every man and his dog has been belting these ones home over recent times, but there were 3 decisions, really 3 decisions in that third quarter in the Essendon Geelong game that has just been on the radio left, right, and center. I saw them all when they happened, and my opinion still hasn't changed on what they were, except for one, and I'll give it a 50-50. All right. These are in no particular order. Now, you know the 3 that I'm talking about. I'll go through them, Jdog, and I'd love to hear your opinion on them as well. The first one. This is the first one, which I'll go for, was a tackle on the outer half forward line. Had one arm pinned, spun around, holding the ball to himself, holding the ball. Okay. Players are saying, didn't have an opportunity, prior opportunity, those sort of things. He had one hand on the ball. His other arm was pinned. How was he supposed to get rid of it? He'd have to throw it. Couldn't make an attempt, etc. All right. What's he supposed to do? They thought that one was harsh. All right. That was the first one. The second one, which was the Draper mark where Tui ran and made front-on contact / chopped the arms. was not paid a free kick either. Third one, Caldwell in the goal square, gathers the ball, runs it through. Two Geelong players have held back, not gone near him. They've played deliberate. Paid deliberate. Let's start with the first one, the holding the ball. Did you see that as a fair decision or not a fair decision, and why?
Sorry, what did you say? I missed that completely.
200 bike riders killed you. The tackle on the far side where he had one arm pinned and he was paid for dropping the ball, and people have gone, had no prior, arm pinned, couldn't get rid of the ball, etc. Did you see that as a free kick or not a free kick?
Well, it's a free kick every day of the week, isn't it?
Every day of the week. And this is what I don't understand. I don't understand why people think that the player has to have an opportunity to get rid of the ball. He got tackled.
Disposal.
He got tackled. He held it to himself. He could have thrown the ball away, but that would have been throwing the ball. He didn't drop it or kick it because he couldn't. It was a perfect tackle. That is what holding the ball is. You could not have made a more perfect demonstration of what holding the ball was. Nailed it. So for them to complain over that one, I'm like, no, he just got tackled and it was the perfect tackle. So too bad, too sad. Right. All right. The second one.
Chopping of the arms, or which one?
Chopping of the arms by Tui to Draper. Thoughts?
Yep. Can I be completely honest?
Yep.
That happens a million times in a game of football.
True.
A million times.
Yep.
Play on. Sometimes shit goes your way. Sometimes it doesn't shit go on. Like that, like you can't. You got beat by 47 points, 46 points.
Yep. So here's the way I saw this one. When I looked at it and I went back and watched it a couple of times, I think I watched it about 5 or 6 times today in preparation for this. At the time, I went, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And when I look at it, I still have a feeling there was nothing wrong with it because, yes, he made front-on contact, but at no stage did he look at Draper at all. Now, as soon as you take your eyes off the ball and look at your opponent, that's when they'll call front-on contact. But if you have a look, Tui's eyes never left the ball the entire way and jumped. So front-on contact, in my opinion, is out because he's been looking at the ball all that way. The thing, though, that I maybe 50-50, there may have been a brushing of the arm, but if it wasn't the first arm, it was the second arm that I think, and by then he'd already dropped the ball. So I can see why they'd say front-on, chopping the arms, but chopping of the arms didn't happen. The ball had already left. He'd already dropped the mark due to a spoil from a guy who hadn't done anything wrong.
All right. So give that to them. Well done. You now lost by 36.5 points. Well done. 36.5. Great. Whatever it is.
The issue is that after that, then this happened, which was Caldwell gets the ball in the goal square. He has a look. If you have a look at it, he actually has a look to see if there's anybody there. No one there. What am I going to do? I'm going to rush it through. There is no rule that states if you are in the 9-meter goal square, you can rush it and not get penalized. There is no rule for that. For some reason, players think there is a rule. And I did post on my Facebook page the actual rules for it. And they are, you can't obviously deliberately punch it through like a ruckman. You can't deliberately take the ball over. You need to make some sort of attempt to keep it in. And that's where he fell over. He didn't attempt at all to keep that ball in when he had the opportunity to do so. He was under direct pressure, but he wasn't up against the goal line. There was still a few meters before it actually got there. And he did have a look and then decide to run through the goals. That's just somebody not knowing the roles. Simple. And I have no issue with that being paid. If we encapsulate everything, though, the issue that we have is that not everything is paid. And that's the biggest issue we have right now with the game, is that the game is way too inconsistent. 4 umpires haven't worked. You've said it since day dot. 4 umpires are not working. There's too much grey in these rules. Something needs to be done. And I know we've been doing this for 7 years now, and there hasn't been a season. We talk about umpires quite a fair bit, but this hasn't been a season that I can see it's considerably got worse. considerably got worse.
Okay, I don't see it like that.
Yeah, see, I
at
do.
all. I think the game is in a pretty good spot considering how technical it is. Overall, there are 1 or 2 decisions out of the week we go, oof.
Yep.
But in the game, I feel like the winners are the winners. We don't really get it doesn't really cost
Yeah,
it. Like,
true.
we're talking about a game that is made up of 7,200 seconds. And we want to analyze literally these split seconds that don't have an impact really on the game because there are so many other moments that make an impact.
True. No, and I agree wholeheartedly. And I think
And
you said
still,
it's right.
Okay, well done. You got beat by 40 points still. Well done.
Yeah. There are so many technicalities with this game, but that's where the problem lies, is that there are so many technicalities. There never were technicalities, but they brought in intent and then they brought in gray areas. The rules were very, very simple. And then they wanted to give a little bit, make the game a bit faster, so they introduced things. Then they want to slow it down. They brought some things in. And now it looks like somebody's bought a house and they've just, instead of rebuilding everything, they've just put all these shitty extensions on the joint and it just looks like a freaking bucket of smashed crabs. It's no good.
Here's the thing, Peps.
And that's why umpires like, I can't figure out what the hell's going on. How are we supposed to do this?
Well, let's be honest here. We play this game a bit of time. The old 5 whys. Why is the game so complicated now? Who does the fault lay at? Is it the umpire's fault or is it the player's fault that the game is so complicated?
Well, I wouldn't say it's the players and I wouldn't say it's the umpires. I'd say it's the AFL. And
I'd say it's the players.
No, I don't think it's the players.
They grey the rules to then make it that the AFL has to bring in a rule to stop that.
The AFL don't need to grey rules. They should adjudicate them as they're written. And
all right, let's flip that on the reverse side. 10 years ago, we saw the old ducking, duck into every tackle, high free. AFL changed the rules.
Why?
If you duck into it now, we're going to call play on.
Yep.
Is that a good rule to make or a bad rule?
Great rule.
So we did that because players were dropping.
No. Are you tucking? You mean?
As in they were dropping their head and diving into players. Or they were dropping their knees when they were getting a tackle. So it would slide up or they would manipulate their shoulders.
I have no issue with that.
But we had to bring in a rule because it's so technical. Because players were doing it.
Yeah, but you know what? Good on them that they've worked out a way to do that. That's a skill, Jdog. That's a skill to be able to do that. Tackle them lower. Like I don't understand why we just have. It's like, oh, you know what? We'll just give him another benefit. I'll just give him another benefit. There used to be the rule.
We'll agree to disagree because I think that we equally got frustrated when and let's just call it at Joel Selwood's time. We would equally get frustrated saying he's cheating. Like he's breaking the rules.
How is he? But he's not breaking the rules.
But we got frustrated though, didn't we?
Yeah, so get frustrated. Get your own players to do it. So here's one that I reckon they jumped the gun. The stand rule is the biggest farce. Why do they bring a stand rule in? It is a joke to hear an umpire tell every player stand every 30 seconds. And it really hasn't increased the level of scoring.
The 2 rules, I agree with you. The 2 rules for me in the last, say, 10 years they've brought in, which does my head in, is stand and Ricky Touchwood, what's it called? Exclusion zone.
Oh.
Or protected area. Sorry, protected area.
It's too hard. Like the player is not affecting the football whatsoever.
Yeah.
Why call it? Like it's.
But that's okay.
You just tell them to get out. But yeah, the stand rule. But yeah, so we could, like I said, we could spend we could have a whole series on this. They've made that many twists.
We could do it like the 10-year chronicles. Like what rules have AFL come in, and then you and I discuss each year the rules they brought in and what it did.
AFL Almanac, which is sitting over there, it does have a breakdown of what the rules were and when they were introduced. And we could say good or bad. And I reckon we could do more bad than good. We might even do that one night. We'll quickly go through the games. Listen, we want to knock these off. Good or bad rule introductions? Nope.
1990, we brought in these rules. 1991, these rules came in.
But it's even things like Jdog. It's even things like not kicking it to yourself at a fullback. Or why do you have to nominate a ruckman? Like, it's just stupid. What They wait for the ruckman to run over, and then they go, "Oh, and it's you two." Yeah, it's ridiculous. They've got issues. Couple of quick things before we have a look really quickly at the games from this weekend or coming up for this weekend. Brisbane, really nice. Gold Coast, geez, they're a tease. You said that they were finished. You said they were finished last week, and they've come out and beat your love child.
Bastards. I said they don't win in June.
Yeah. They won on the 29th of June. Stick that up, your son. Yeah. So that was a nice win. Adelaide, geez, when Rankin fires, is there much of it's beautiful to watch. It's really
is Rankin the modern Cyril?
No, he'd be
Better?
Cozzy would be the modern Cyril, I'd say.
Yeah.
Rankin he's an on-baller now. He's not just a forward, he's an on-baller.
Yeah, he needs to stay there, doesn't he?
He could be the next Andrew McLeod.
Yeah, he needs to stay
That's
there.
a big call. That's a big call, but that's where he could be. GWS, with no Sam Taylor, they are in massive trouble. I think we picked that last week, that no Sam Taylor, no GWS, and that went to shine last week. And it's really cool because when you have a look at round 17 at 1 week at a time, I said last week there weren't too many cracking games. There's belters everywhere this weekend. Collingwood Essendon, Friday night. 6th versus 4th. Could you imagine Essendon lose that? They could be, what would they? If they fall out of that, they'd be almost a game of falling out, which you never thought would happen. North versus Gold Coast. Can Gold Coast get that win away from home against North, who are playing really spirited football at the moment? Port versus the Bulldogs. Can the real Port Adelaide please stand up, or will the Doggies take it out? Geelong versus Hawthorn. Hawthorn have played once down at GMHBA Stadium, once in 18 years.
Yep.
GWS versus Carlton. Freo versus Richmond. Freo win that one. Melbourne versus the Eagles. You got to remember, about 5 to 6 weeks ago, the Eagles beat the D's. Will that happen again? I'm not too sure. Sydney versus St Kilda. What about Brisbane finaling against the Adelaide Crows at the Gabba? I love the graveyard shift. That last game of the weekend it's a pretty special game if you can get it. You're on the couch, you've got your roast dinner.
Yep.
You've been to church earlier in the day. You can just sit back and watch a great game of footy just before the next season of the X Factor or Who Wants to Be a Person in the Desert show starts.
Cracking games everywhere.
Yep. I love
Which one particularly looking forward to?
For me, Friday night, I think those two teams just love it against each other. It's almost the first 5 games of the weekend. Probably the first 4 games. I'm really interested in North and Suns. Okay. I'm really interested against Port and your mob, Port and the Doggies, and I'm really keen on Geelong and Hawks. And even the Giants and Carlton at night up there at NG Stadium. I reckon the first 5 games is something pretty special about those.
The one that draws my eye in this whole round is the Cats versus Hawthorn. What does a 5th place team look like versus a 13th place team who could potentially still make it into the 8? What does that look like right now? What does that gap between those two teams look like?
Well, I wouldn't even say that's a game that we should be sitting back going, be worried about or what does it look like? Because yes, there's only one Geelong a 5th. Hawthorn, a 13th.
Mm-hmm.
They've got 1 game between them.
1.5 games is not 1 game.
1 game, 1 win.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is. I don't think I've ever seen a season go this deep. Usually by round 8, you might get 1 or 2 shifts, but outside of that, it is mega awesome. So I am loving it, and I'm loving the round 16 review, which we've had to start twice because I stuffed up the audio. For everybody who's joined us tonight, David Salt, Bo Hawkins, everybody, you've been sensational tonight on the chat. It's been going absolutely gangbusters. Everybody on YouTube, everybody on Facebook, love. You want to donate some stars, subscribe, ring the bell. We want to get the 500 subscribers by the end of this season. So we need you to subscribe. Get on the show, be part of it, ask us anything you want. Because I get to speak to this great bloke every single week. He is the Jdog. He was the number 9 ranked Iron Man. It was true. Was that true or was that fake?
Enough of that.
It was true. Look at him. He's true. No. And he rides 200 Ks because he likes to. That is a man who is just awesome.
And I eat a lot of cakes.
Yep.
It's good for the cake.
Good round of footy.
Cracking around. I cannot wait for the weekend. I cannot wait to then do it all again Monday next week with you, Peps.
I can't wait next week. Until then, I always ask the question, tonight I'm giving you a night off. I like my footy lace out. I like working with the Jdog, and I love working to produce everything for all our listeners and our viewers. Have a great weekend. Hope your team wins, unless you're West Coast. And more importantly, enjoy your week.
See you, listeners. Love you.
Oh,